So if you didn't have enough time to do that, you'd be here, so I could give you the nice day.
That's okay, because they gave her, my daughter, tickets, so.
Ellen, your pencil?
Did too much of the Father's Day
I
weekend.
was. Oh, yeah. And I do it my book.
Too many activities.
And Mike's gonna get the other stuff.
There you go.
She'll do
I brought some backup, espresso. I don't drink coffee,
I was gonna say, yeah, that's not gonna hit you so soon.
and that would be wrong.
Yeah, exactly, so try to avoid that.
Slow down a little bit, right? Yeah, I'll be up all night mad at myself. Not yet, we got what, half a day of sleep. Teachers left half a day, I stayed home. Because I still have.
Good evening, sorry about the delay, I had an appointment, thank you for waiting, I do apologize. Rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, liberty and justice for all. Yes. Good evening. This special meeting of the Township Council is being held in accordance with the schedule of the meetings of the Township Council established and adopted by Township Council, which schedule designated the time, date, and place of this meeting. Adequate public notice of this meeting has been provided pursuant to the provisions of the Open Public Meetings Act. We're using electronic amplifying recording device in order to obtain a clear and audible record, and request all those wishing to speak, you recognize and state your name and address directly to the microphone. The recording device will be solely utilized by the Township Clerk's Office for the preparation of minutes and shall be the official record of the Township Council meetings. Madam Clerk, roll call, please.
Mr. Hutchison?
Present.
Ms. Grace?
Yes, here.
Mrs. Albright Troxel?
Here.
Mrs. Walters?
Here.
Mrs. Winters?
Here.
Mr. Mignon?
Here.
Mr. Mercado?
Present.
Mr. Carlemere?
Here.
Mr. Cardis?
Here.
Chief Harkins?
Here. On our regular agenda, we have a resolution of the Township Council, Township of Gloucester, also authorizing the Township Clerk to read the 2023 Township budget by title only. Any first and second? That'd be a first, then
Yes.
we'll read it. Can I have a motion, please? A second. On the question, roll call, please.
Mr. Hutchison?
Yes.
Ms. Grace?
Yes.
Mrs. Albright Troxel?
Yes.
Mrs. Walters?
Yes.
Mrs. Winters?
Yes.
Mr. Mignon?
Yes.
Mr. Mercado?
Yes.
Resolution 180, resolution to amend the 2020.
Note the change. Before we get to it. Okay, thank you.
2023 budget of the Township of Gloucester County of Camden, State of New Jersey. Whereas the local municipal budget for the year 2023 was approved on the 22nd day of May 2023. And whereas the public hearing on said budget has been held and advertised. And whereas it is desired to amend said approved budget, which does not require advertisement. And now therefore be it resolved by the Township Council of the Township of Gloucester County of Camden that the following amendments to the approved budget of 2023 be made. General revenues. 3, miscellaneous revenues, section A, local revenues. Anticipated utility operating surplus, sheet 4, from $1,550,000 to $1,800,000. Total section A, local revenues, sheet 4C, from $3,746,000 to $3,996,000. 3, miscellaneous revenue, section A, local revenue, sheet 11, from $3,746,000 to $3,996,000. 6, amount to be raised by taxes for support municipal budget. A, local tax for municipal purposes, including reserve for uncollected taxes, sheet 11. from $58,240,893.74 to $57,990,893.74. Total amount to be raised by taxes for support of municipal budget, sheet 11, from $58,240,893.74 to $57,990,893.74. General appropriations, A, operations within caps, employee group insurance, sheet 14, from $8,294,000 to $8,294,520. Total operations, item 8A, within caps, sheet 17A, from $54,365,837 to $54,366,357. Total operations, including contingent within caps, sheet 17A, from $54,365,837 to $54,366,357. Detail other expenses from $23,503,152 to $23,503,672. H1, total general appropriations for municipal purposes within cap, sheet 19.
So in this particular one, the 2, there was a typo which stated it was 63 million. It's actually 64. So the 4 replaces the 3.
But that was reflected correctly in what was sent to the state.
Now, we didn't send anything to
Okay,
the state yet.
But it's reflecting this here.
Yes, will reflect.
From $64,033,561 to $64,034,081. A, operations excluded from caps, employee group insurance, sheet 20, from $612,500 to $611,980. Total other operations excluded from cap, sheet 20A, from $709,500 to $708,980. Total operations excluded from cap, sheet 25, from $939,082.54 to $938,562.54. Detail other expenses from $932,082.54 to $931,564.54. H2, total general appropriations for municipal purposes excluded, sheet 28, from $10,909,207.54 to $10,908,687.54. O, total general appropriations excluded from caps, sheet 29, from $10,909,207.54 to $10,908,687.54. Summary of appropriations, sheet 30. H1, total general appropriations for municipal purposes within caps, from $64,033,561 to $64,034,081. A, other operations, from $709,500 to $708,980. Total operations excluded from caps, from $939,082.54 to $938,562.54. Be it further resolved that a certified copy of this resolution be filed forthwith in the office of the Director of Local Government Services for certification of the local municipal budget, so amended.
Thank you, Clerk. Before we open up the public hearing, yes. I entertain a motion, a resolution to amend the 2023 budget. What's significant about it is that it it was reduced by $250,000 than what was originally presented back in May. Mr. Carson, anything else you want to add to that? No. Entertain a motion? Motion. There's a second? Second. On the question? Roll call, please.
Mr. Hutchison?
Yes.
Ms. Grace?
Yes.
Mrs. Albright Troxel?
Yes.
Mrs. Walters?
Yes.
Mrs. Winters?
Yes.
Mr. Mignon?
Yes.
Mr. Mercado?
Yes. Now we'll have the public hearing on the budget. Anyone wishing to speak, please raise your hand. Mr. Carson, the time limit's 5 minutes. Each speaker has 5 minutes. Once everyone has spoken on this topic matter, they can come back again and speak for another 5 minutes. If they want to speak again, they can come back and speak another 5 minutes. Yes, Claire? We have to read the I am like, at the end, we read that resolution. Okay. All right. Anyone like to speak on the budget? Mr. Heimbaugh?
Peter Heinball, Morning Star Court. So first question, how did the budget subcommittee meeting go? What took place in the yeah?
So we met Saturday at 9 o'clock till 10:30. We could be seen on cameras, so we did meet. We met in the room over here. Myself, Mr. Mignon, Mr. Hutchinson, Mrs. Eric, the CFO, and Mr. Cardis. There were some questions that we had. Saw my post-its regarding some of the questions. And Pete, I want to thank you for some of the questions that you asked because some of them mirrored some of the questions and concerns that I had. But we came to the conclusion that we were authorized to use at least half of the surplus that the MUA had, but we did not use all of it, that half that we were able to use. So we look to return some of that back to the residents, and we were able to take $250,000 off that surplus. And we were in agreement with Mr. Hutchinson, Mr. Mignon, and myself, and we instructed the business administrator and CFO to make those changes and amendments to the budget.
Yeah, thank you. I did see the MUA surplus that is going to be recognized as revenue in this budget was increased, which in turn reduced the amount raised by taxation by the same amount, which, so what is the total? I don't think it's ever quite been clear. There wasn't even an agreement on what the name of this account is, the renewal and replacement account formerly of the MUA. At the time of the dissolution, what was the total in that renewal and replacement MUA account?
I don't know the exact number, but I think it was right around 6.3 million.
Okay, yeah, that's Josh.
That's what I had heard, and that's what we presented to the local finance board. Ms. Eric, 6.3.
And out of that 6.3 million, how much is still in this utility account as a fund, or as a surplus, or however you want to?
4.4 million.
It's still there.
It's still there. We used in this budget 1.8 million.
So there's no, at 4.4, is that was determined to be there as renewal and replacement funds for the utility?
But we're using that renewal replacement title. You're more familiar. What you consider it surplus?
Surplus fund balance.
Surplus fund balance. So, could you answer his question?
Well, the financial statements refer to it as renewal and replacement account. The MUA financial
Yeah,
statement.
it will remain there.
This whole 4.4 million. That's what's been decided as needed as a surplus for renewal and replacement of the utility.
No, I don't think so. I think there was
Half of the 6.3 had to remain with the.
Well, that was the local finance board's decision. Okay. The restricted part, which would be for just what you're talking about, it was, I believe, 1.7 to 2 million. So in that ballpark. That's called restricted fund balance.
So anything out of the 6.3 million, anything over and above this 1.7 is now deemed Gloucester Township surplus. Is that what
It'll stay in the utility.
It'll stay in the utility as surplus,
As surplus.
not as renewal and replacement account funds.
Yeah, I've never used those terms.
Well, it's not you that uses them, it's it's the entity that, it's what it's called in
It's an
the,
authority term.
Is there?
So just to answer your question,
Yeah.
the reason why there was a little bit of a difference of a terminology that we're having a little bit of difficulty understanding is they use a different form of accounting as an MUA as they do as a sewer utility. So they're GAAP based, where we're a modified accrual basis of accounting. So when they come over to us, they will only have two accounts. They will have a sewer operating account and a capital outlay account. Their capital outlay account is basically like our general capital fund. As the MUA, they call it a reserve and replacement or this renewal replacement account. So the terminology is a little bit different. So because we don't deal with that on a normal day-to-day basis, and that's not really what, you know, myself and the business administrator are really knowledgeable in that area, the accounting method is different.
so this relates.
Mr. Heimbaugh, I'm sorry, your time's up. If we have anyone else who'd like to speak. Mr. Polidoro, sorry, Mr. Heimbaugh, once we go through, we'll bring it back up again.
Good evening, Council. Ray Polidoro from the Historic Village of Ariel.
Good evening.
Okay, so what I'm hearing is the renewal and replacement is a different terminology. Mr. Cardis, you said you weren't familiar with that phrase when we brought it up previously. Did you or the CFO get a look at the MUA's budget before you procured it?
I mean, I've seen their budget.
And you didn't come across that terminology?
I didn't go into detail on it. What I did was I confirmed and the auditor that was handling it came back to me with a number and he called it fund balance or surplus.
And you're aware, you and the CFO are aware of what that money was sitting there for? Why the MUA had that money sitting there that they did not consider a surplus?
I only knew that there was a portion of it that was restricted.
All right, so with what money that you guys are taking over from their renewal and replacement fund that you now call a surplus, by the time you get done putting it into the general budget of the township and the acquisition now converting to a utility, how much will be left for what was that replacement and renewal fund? What will be left from that 6 million?
4.4 million.
And that will be untouched, or are you going to hit it again?
I don't, in the future, I don't know.
Well,
I can't tell you what's gonna happen in future budgets.
all right, so is there, the local finance board, did they happen to say how much they want to be untouched, where you're not gonna take it?
No, they told us that they would be comfortable with us taking up to $3 million. They did not specify that any of the remaining surplus was restricted or that it was restricted over a period of time. They just said for the 2023 budget, you could use up to $3 million.
All right, so in the meantime, from what I noticed, the MUA kept that for a good reason. You challenged that reason with their budget versus their surplus, as you called it, but replacement and renewal. If a catastrophic sewage infrastructure event should happen in this township, now that you have got some of that money, we'll probably take more of it and then probably empty it out, which is maybe if not next year, the following year, according to your pattern. When a catastrophic event happens that has to do with sewage infrastructure, you're going to borrow money where the MUA had it sitting. Am I wrong?
The MUA also borrowed money.
But they have a surplus and they managed to keep a surplus while keeping our
We're
building.
using that money for repairs. They were borrowing money from the NJEIP.
All right, so they had 6 million, and that 6 million is basically going to dissolve and fizzle away. So over time, let's say that the old pipes, sewage pipes in our township, have their issues, and let's say it's a $4 million event that happens.
We'll borrow.
That's great. That's great. So with the COVID money that you brought forward for this year to help balance the budget, the MUA money that you have, plus the surplus that you had, all right? So you managed to do an amazing zero again, as was expected in this election year.
Actually, we're 0.5%
Yes.
lower.
Oh, my goodness. Isn't that something? It's a joke. That's a joke. Well, it is a joke. A half of 1% after several 10%, that's phenomenal. I'm sure you'll put that on your advertising in election season. We fully expect that.
Okay.
But the problem is next year. Where are you going to find the money next year? I think, I'm no expert, I'm not an accountant, and I certainly don't play it on TV. The increase to these taxpayers next year will probably start, because your zero is this high. Zero is not down here. It's according to the tax increases. And you know I can't reach that high where you guys go. But 16% is your new zero for next year. That means more than likely this body, if reelected, will raise taxes probably 16% or higher because of the magic stairway that you guys have made. Does anybody really think that I'm wrong?
Your predictions have been on.
Oh, my predictions have been right on schedule. Odd number, even number, political. Listen, you told Dina Hendrick not to bring politics in here. Your budget is politics. Your budget is pure politics. And you have proven it. Zero in election year, average of 10. The only difference is you'll break your pattern next year. You will have the highest tax increase next year since you guys and the mayor raised it in 2010. Thank you.
Well, that was incorrect. That was proposed by Mayor Ralph Hatton, a 24% increase. Thank you. Anyone else? Anyone else? Mr. Heimbaugh?
Pete Heimbaugh, Morningstar Court. I think I did get, with Ray's follow-up questions, I think I did get an understanding of this surplus account. So I don't need to follow up more on that one. I do have a couple questions. At the end of 2022, fiscal year 2022, we were left with a little over $1 million in appropriation reserve. That's a term used. What happens with that $1 million?
We pay the bills that come in January, February, March. We do a transfer resolution of the reserves in March. And then if anything else comes in, we pay it. And then eventually it will lapse into surplus in 24.
Okay, whatever's left.
It goes an entire year and then it lapses.
So we're halfway through this year. So I imagine everything that's going to be spent from that reserve has been spent. I mean, we're halfway
I
through.
would presume you're correct.
How much appropriation reserve is remaining?
I'd have to defer to Christie, I don't know.
I looked at it, yesterday. It was about 780,000.
So what's preventing that fund to roll in? Is now we're amending the budget and things like that, and we know we're not going to touch the rest of that reserve because it's June 20th, halfway through the year. What's preventing us from rolling those funds into revenue and amend the budget for this year?
I'm not sure legally you can do it. Christie, I'll defer to you.
I've never seen it done that way. I'm not sure if it can. I'm not gonna say it can or it cannot, but
My reading of it is you can choose to roll it to 2024, which is what we do every year, but you can choose to utilize it.
Well, it's not considered fund balance or surplus at this point.
you would have to cancel it before the end of the fiscal year
Right.
in order to be able to use it. So we would have had to cancel that money prior to December 31st to be able to use it in this year's budget.
Correct.
Because when they certify the fund balance number, it's
canceled
as of December
appropriations.
31st.
Before December.
We've canceled small amounts of appropriations in prior
Not a
years.
lot, not a lot. Capital, yes.
So is this a consistent, this is a consistent thing that we do year in, year out?
No. Yeah, it's consistent that we don't touch it and allow it to go to the surplus.
But $1 million reserve, when through all the experience we've had, we know there's not going to be $1 million spent in the next, that's going to roll into the first few months of the calendar year, the next fiscal year. We could cancel. We could be more aggressive, so to speak, at canceling this reserve, because we know we have good track record of knowing how much is gonna be spent and unspent. We could bring more of that into revenue, and we probably should, is instead of overtaxing the residents and then having it roll over, hold on to it for a year and then do something with it a year later. In the meantime, we've overtaxed the residents to get that reserve. I think we could be a little more aggressive in recognizing revenue from that appropriation reserve. Another question, last year's budget, there was a focus given to reduce employee overtime expense. I'm looking at the results for this year, and that didn't happen. Is that still a focus, or was that abandoned?
No, it's still a focus. That was part of our conversation that we had on Saturday. One of the things that Mr. Cardis and the CFO brought to my attention, particularly when it came to public works, is that they have had a hard time, particularly during leaf season, to bring in temporary help. People don't want to work. They would reach out to labor supply firms to provide that, and I've been fairly unsuccessful doing that. So that has amounted to a bump in overtime for Public Works Department. But that is something that I know myself and Mr. Mignon have asked Mr. Cardis over the year to give us an update regarding overtime and where it's at. I am concerned about the level of it, and I will continue to be concerned about it. And I expressed that to Mr. Cardis, and Mr. Mignon echoed that as well.
I had an idea, Pete, you don't mind me using your time. I think we need to look at increasing the rate of pay, if possible. For
Temporary labor.
departments. So as you can find the sweet spot, it would be more affordable at a higher rate for those temporary workers.
We're not even getting clean community applications at this point.
Okay.
That's why I'm thinking raise the rate.
Well, I see my 5 minutes of it.
Thank you, Mr. Heimel. Is there anyone
I
else?
thought that was good.
Ms. Hendry?
Good evening, Dina Hendry, Summerdale. A couple questions on the budget, and maybe you've already answered this and maybe you haven't, so please forgive me. Just reading over it and just a couple questions. On the revenue and appropriation summary, the anticipated for this year seems to be less, about $325,000 less in surplus. Do you know why we're thinking that it's going to be less?
Are we talking about the resolution to amend?
I just printed this out like 3 hours ago, so I don't know.
Christie, do you know what sheets were?
It's a summary. It's on the page of the summary of revenues. You have last year we had $3.1 million. This year we're anticipating it to be 2.855.
So, Dina, before you got here, there was an amendment to the budget,
Was there big one or little one?
$250,000.
So what does that mean?
So there's a reduction this year,
How much?
$250,000.
What does that mean for like a homeowner like myself?
It's well, it's a half a penny, half a percentage. So
Nothing to get excited about.
better than the opposite of it.
Well, it's a decrease. The issue, if you're, I'm saying, the issue is that we don't know what the county rate is right
Okie doke.
now. And I can't get the county rate. The county won't certify it until they do what's called debits and credits. I don't
Okay.
know why they're doing that, but I would have thought they would have a number for us.
Okay.
So we estimated that. So with that, we would be up 2.9 cents.
Okay.
But it's conceivable they could come in at a flat, or they could come in at a decrease. I don't know.
Okie doke.
I've heard rumors of a decrease.
Ooh, I don't like rumors. So then your salaries of your operating expenses it looks like it's an increase of $704,000. Are these added positions or higher wages?
I believe these would be, for the most part, contractual obligations.
Okay, so across the township, because of all the employees, all the team members, those are their increases.
Yeah, there's 7 unions.
Okay, and then the other expenses is about $60,000. What is that? Is that the overtime that you speak of?
Where are you referencing?
Yes, I'm trying to figure out which.
It's this little piece of paper.
What's the top on that piece?
It says, 2023 municipal budget of the Township of Gloucester County, Camden, the fiscal year of 2023, revenue and appropriation summaries. One of the awesome police officers accidentally, I had this all in order, it fell, so it's not, I don't know what page it is.
Can you show that page to Christie?
Yeah.
She has the synopsis that's for the paper. You guys don't have that in your packet. That's the synopsis that goes into the paper. The other expenses is all the other expenses. You know, it's segregated into 2 parts, your salary and wages, and then all your other expenses, which would be your operating expenses.
Like for a building or like the electric?
Building, electric, health insurance, any any expense that is not a salary.
Okay, and so that you're thinking that's gonna increase by 60,000?
Yes, that's all operating expenses for the entire municipality.
Okay, and capital improvements, it looks like we're going to decrease about $437,000. Are we not improving our township?
Well, we have a capital budget that we also passed earlier in the year.
Uh-huh,
I believe you were here for that meeting. That capital budget, $7 million,
A little over 7.
was $7 million.
okay,
So
so,
some of those things were.
5% of our, so the capital improvement fund, what you're looking at, that's the 5% down payment. Since we already introduced and approved our capital program, we know exactly what that number is going to be.
so this is an exact number here.
Yes,
So it's lower than what we spent in 2022. So is that a payment or is that, those are improvements?
no, that's the improvement, that's 5% of the capital budget.
Okay,
That's the 5% down payment.
okay. If anybody wants to speak, I have other tabs that I needed to talk to, but didn't want to be.
Anyone else wish to speak? Mr. Heimball?
Peter Heimbaugh, Morningstar Court. As I go through, look at the budget every year, we consistently under budget the same line items and for consistent reasons. We always under budget for tax collected. We always, tax revenue will be collected. We always under budget that. I mean, it's not that we have to guess. It's a pattern that goes back as far as you want to look. We always under budget what's referred to as unanticipated revenue, which we get to an end of a year, we recognize about $1 million on average every single year with those, and majority of that $1 million is repetitive and able to be anticipated. I just wonder why we choose to under recognize by hundreds of thousands of dollars several revenue line items like that.
Is there, Mr. Curtis?
I'm trying to figure out the first part of your question. Are you talking about the reserve for uncollected taxes?
Let's talk about taxes collected, actual taxes collected.
So the taxes collected is based on a percentage. We put an amount in our budget of what we anticipate because, you know, we've had this conversation before where we collect 100% for all the entities in the county, the schools, and the fire districts, whether we collect 100% of our taxes or not. This past year, our percentage of collections was 99.61. So we needed to pay 100% of those other entities. So we need to budget a percentage. So last year, we budgeted 99.52. And the difference of the 99.61 is what you're seeing is what you're talking about. So that's the difference between what we said we're gonna collect, what was actually collected. So obviously, we're not at 100%, where we're at 99.61. So that difference that you're talking about is between the 99.52, which was in the 2022 budget, compared to what the actual collection rate was. It was 99.61.
My point though is that every year, we under budget that by hundreds of thousands, like an average of $500,000 or more every year. So we know, I can tell you right now, we're under budgeted again this year, just because I see enough of a pattern.
Would
So-
you rather be under or over?
I want an accurate budget. It's a budget. I want to get as close to accurate with everything. It's what budgets are supposed to be.
What did we budget last year?
99.52.
And we collected 99.61.
0.61.
So what happens if we budgeted 99.75 and we collected 99.61?
You would have a deficit
What
in
would
your
happen?
budget, and that would be an audit finding, and it would put a decrease to your bond rating. It is looked.
It's never happened.
Deficits are not looked
It's
upon.
never happened. We're
So that's good.
we're overtaxing though. We're being too conservative with that number when we know we are, and we can all sit here and know we are right now.
How close do you want to get to the line? What number?
I want the taxation to be the right amount, the right amount to run the town, not nice little.
So
put away in the-
should we use 99.61 this year because we collected 99.61
I-
last year?
Here's what I know, it's gonna be about $500,000 more. So yes, then,
But you know.
Yeah.
know that.
yes,
So we should
because I can tell, I
do
look at the last 15 years and see that's happened every year in 15 years. So yes.
Very risky.
I think we should be reminded that the budget is a living document.
No, it's passed today and it sets the taxes today, so it's
I'm
not,
telling
it's
you, it's a
not.
living document.
I don't know what that means, and it's not really answering, responding to anything.
I'm just shocked that you would want to walk that close to the line knowing.
No, because we know. Because we know, what about the other, the quote, the funny title to this, unanticipated revenue? It's $1 million every year. We know it's gonna be,
Burn. It's miscellaneous revenue not
Yeah.
anticipated. And we don't know that we're getting whatever we're getting. I don't know why the statement.
majority of it,
the
we
statement you-
get the same source of revenue every year.
The statement you said that it's $1 million every year, I
Yeah.
question that. I question that.
No, averages, I said. Some years it's 750, some year $1.3 million.
So we
So,
don't
so
know,
budget 500,000.
we don't know we're
So we don't have
getting.
to overtax by
I will
500,000.
say that one thing that goes into that number, that is, if you have something that was assessed at farmland, give you an example, before the outlets went in, that was assessed at farmland, and then when they bought the property, you get 2 years of rollback tax. That's a huge chunk of change that goes back to the township, and a portion of it goes into the county also. That is something that we would not know that we were getting until the acquisition happened.
I'm talking about something that repeats and is now predictable, that happens every year.
So
Every year is predictable, which is,
Thank you, Pete. Your time is up. Anyone else like to speak that has not spoken before? Ms. Hendry.
Okay, got my tabs. In sheet 9, your general revenues looks like a lot of, law enforcement initiatives like Click It or Ticket. Are we not doing that coming up for the next year? Because it looks like the Click It or Ticket brought in about $7,000.
Anticipated.
Grants.
So a lot of.
These are grants or revenues? Because it looks like it says
These are
anticipated.
grants.
They're grants that are realized as a revenue.
No,
They're revenues
they're revenues.
that come in, they're grant revenues.
They were grant money.
That's
Oh,
what
it's not like ticket money or anything like that?
No.
Okay,
Right,
so
that
then
whole page is
we'll
grants.
just, there you go. Next page, 4A, current fund, anticipated revenues, miscellaneous revenues, recreational fees. I see in 2022, we as in township, brought in about $183,000 and we're anticipating $160,000. Are we thinking that less people are gonna participate or things like that? Like, wouldn't you think it would be about the same?
Well, in 2022, we budgeted 64, so it did increase
Yeah.
by $100,000 in the budget.
So do you, I mean, I would think that it would be, I mean, granted, I see that you are conservative. I'd like to be conservative too, where you're like, maybe not, see if it's a trend, maybe next year, seeing if it's, in that trend. So therefore you can do that. But I just thought, it's just like, do we think that there's going to be a decrease in whether it's participation, sport rentals, like what is recreational fees?
Recreational fees is our preschool program that's run. They are any kind of
Summer camps,
summer camps,
night programs,
Junior Police Academy.
Junior Police Academy.
yoga, any of those programs that are run at the rec center.
Okay. So,
It's kind of like with dancing. How close to the line do you want to be?
yeah,
Because I don't know that we're going to repeat and have that many people.
and to be held accountable. I understood. Your pool fees, membership fees, how many, are we close to hitting that? Like, shouldn't that be an exact kind of like close to an exact number as of right now, being that pool season is in full swing?
I believe we are close to that number.
Okay. And then the tax abatement in lieu of billing, could you, before I ask my question, define what that is?
That's the abatement program.
So basically, if you have like a business, it's like a tax break, correct? Like,
You have to construct something from nothing.
okay.
Only new construction would fall into that category.
And so we're thinking that we're going to have an increase of $70,000.
Yeah, because it's calculated it's almost exact by the assessor.
Okay.
The bills already went out.
That's amazing. And then the last question I had was a decrease in composting. Like, it was a big decrease in composting. Do we know why? So sale of compost, like, wouldn't that be like material goods? Like, isn't that what we try to do, like to recycle and?
So this is our first year collecting that revenue.
Okay.
That was previously collected by the MUA. It is now that the MUA has dissolved, it will be now a revenue collected by us. It was handled a little bit differently. We paid them part of the global agreement, a certain amount of money every month, and then anything that they collected in excess came back to the township. Now that their budget is held by us, the MUA, their top clerical staff over there that's what they told me was actually collected as compost. So we had to handle it a little bit different, but because of this is our first time doing it this way, those numbers could be adjusted next year, but it's just the first time that we're actually handling the compost.
Okay, because the way that it's here is that last year in 2022, sale of compost was $262,000.
That was the excess that was returned to us
Oh, okay.
from them.
So the 77,000 would be the excess returned to us?
No, it's now a 6 month of the compost that will be ours.
Holy shnikes.
There could be some tweaking done next year, but this is new territory for us doing the MUA and bringing it as a utility. So this is our first year doing
Okay.
it, so.
Speaking
Thank
of
you,
the
Ms.
end,
Ms.
go ahead.
Hendry, I'm sorry, your time is up.
Oh, damn.
Is there anyone else would like to speak? That has not spoken?
I have one last question.
Ms. Hendry?
Speaking of, that was on sheet 10, the GTMUA operating surplus for the prior year. It says in 2022, it was $240,000, but really it was only $212,000. Wouldn't that be at a loss? So if it operated at a loss, why would it be something that we would pursue and help us?
Not at a loss, it's, as an MUA, you're allowed 5%. Someone, Dave or Tom, 5%
You're
of the
correct, 5%.
MUA's operating budget, is that correct?
I believe you are correct.
So when their audit was finalized, that was their 5% that they're allowed to give to the municipality.
It's an exact number that's calculated by the auditor.
Okay, one last question. So if we didn't have the deduction and the budget where there is surpluses and things like that, what would we have looked at in an increase in our taxes? Like, if you guys didn't do the great work that you guys did in ensuring that there was either A, no increase or decrease, what would we have been looking at? Because
Without the 1.8 million. Well, I would have to estimate about 3.6 or 3.7 cents.
cents or percent?
Cents.
So not much of an increase to the taxpayer,
It's still an increase.
but not impactful, nothing that, you know, I need to cancel my blowout membership for because I have to now pay $100 more in my mortgage or anything like that. Correct.
It's an increase.
It's an increase. I truly hope that next year when we have our budget meetings, that it is, if there is an increase, it is very minimal, being that food prices are going up, everything is going up. I know services are going up. I work in the apartment industry and services do go up. So I understand increases. But our seniors, our working class families, we can't absorb these increases that are really large because we're here in this life to make memories. And I just hope that you guys think about that next year. Okay.
Yes. So, Ms. Henry?
Yeah.
In the Assembly, actually the Assembly, the Senate, and the Governor have recently come to an agreement on a program that is going to cut seniors' taxes in half up to a $6,500 amount. So, you know, it's going to affect that target for the seniors. They're also going to increase, I think, the anchor check for the seniors to help keep them.
Is there anyone else? Seeing none, we'll close the public hearing. Title only, so resolution 181, resolution Township Council, Township of Gloucester County, Camden State, New Jersey, adopting the 2023 calendar year budget. I have a motion.
I'll make that motion.
Second on the question. Roll call, please.
Mr. Hutchison?
Yes.
Ms. Grace?
Yes.
Mrs. Albright Troxel?
Yes.
Mrs. Walters?
Yes.
Mrs. Winters? Yes. Mr. Vignon?
Yes.
Mr. Mercado?
Before I answer, I want to thank Mrs. Eric. Thank you for your work on this budget. Mr. Cardis, for you two spending your Saturday morning with Mr. Mignon, Mr. Hutchinson, myself.
You know, I was
It was a pleasure.
So I do appreciate it, your time and your work on this. Yes. Thank you. We'll now go to the public portion. The public chooses to address council. Each speaker is entitled to 5 minutes. We have 30 minutes for this public portion, and the speaker can only speak twice if they choose to do so. Does anyone like to speak during the public portion? Seeing none, we'll close the public portion. All the directors?
Mr. Crothers?
Nothing to report.
Mr. Cardis?
I want to thank Christy Eric for her help with the budget and wish her a nice vacation. She's even already pretty busy. Have fun.
Chief Harkins?
Nothing to report.
Mr. Hutchison?
I'd like to say, Pete, your questions were very good. We differ philosophically on a couple of points tonight. But your questions were excellent. And they made for a very contentious meeting on Saturday, where at times that we had to take a break and walk out of the room. Ms. Henry, a very good point, this evening with respect to the affordability for seniors. Glad that we did not increase that. Thank you for coming.
Ms. Grace?
Hope everyone had a wonderful, happy Father's Day weekend, and I hope that we have a great week this week.
Mrs. Albright Troxel?
Mr. Heimel, I appreciated your questions and I appreciated the response that you received. I hope it was beneficial to you. Christy, thank you so much for doing a great job. You did an excellent job and you answered questions that I had. I appreciate that. I want to thank everyone who worked on this committee. You did an outstanding job. And as a senior citizen, I am happy that I won't have taxes raised this year. Whether it's a half a cent or what, it's still a reduction. And I think that's important. And thank you for coming. And I hope all you fathers had a great Father's Day.
Mrs. Walters?
I want to thank everybody for working on the budget. I know it's a lot of hard work. And thank you, everybody, for coming out and asking the questions to bring to our attention. And everybody have a good night.
Mrs. Winters?
Saying I would like to thank everyone for work on the budget. It's a good final number, I guess. I wish everyone a happy Father's Day and thank you for coming out and thank you for your comments.
Mr. Mignon?
I appreciate everyone that did scrutinize the budget, whether it's on that side or this side. It is a hard job. Thank you. Have a great week.
Mr. Morgado?
Thank you for coming out this evening and to the members of council, the members of the public for coming out on Tuesday. So I do appreciate it. With that, I entertain a motion to adjourn. So is there a second? Second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Have a great evening, everyone.
Everyone, at 6:30, redevelopment meeting.
Oh, yeah. Next week, they're not here.